Oh, hey there. If you're wondering why I'm in these big old tidy whities, my eyes are up here. My name is Chris Ruden. I'm a pro powerlifter. I've been working with companies like Nike and Tommy Hilfiger doing adaptive modeling as a type 1 diabetic for 11 years, and I was born with a physical disability. I've been on TV shows like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's Titan Games, and I've been fortunate to build my social media following to allow me to create a career that helps other people see their world without limits. Now, I wasn't always this cool, and I was actually a really wimpy kid growing up. I was never into sports. I was tiny. I was actually made fun of for not having muscle. I never played sports. I never did any of that. But I have to start my story with why I'm wearing these underwear. I'm going to give you a little bit of an insight into my past. Ew, look at his hand. That's disgusting. That's so nasty. He's a monster. Don't let him play with us. He doesn't belong here. You shouldn't even be here. Go home. Actually, you don't even belong in this earth. That was Patrick, one of the many kids who made fun of me for the way I was born, something I couldn't control. I spent my entire life, over 17 years, hiding my disability, feeling like I was broken. I don't know if you know some of the synonyms for disability, but weak, broken, useless, helpless, less than. And type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes counts as a disability. Can you imagine growing up thinking you were broken? Because that's exactly what happened to me. I felt like I had underwear on the outside of my pants every single place I went. I was constantly stared at. I was constantly made fun of. I just felt constantly broken. It took a very long time and a very good community, the diabetes community, to help get me out of that rut, to help take me from that weak, broken, useless, helpless, wimpy kid to a guy who wears too tight of clothes to make me look bigger. I was born permanently attractive. At least that's what my mom says. I was born with physical disability, and I didn't get diabetes until 19 years old, but my life changed when I started following these 3 perspectives that helped take me from this wimpy kid to a kid who bodybuilds and breaks records and breaks limits, and to a guy who dedicates his life to help other people see their value and their ability to impact others in their community, regardless of their struggle. Those 3 concepts we're going to talk about today: attitude, perspective, and the power of choice. When you change your attitude, you get to look at your problems from a different point of view. When you change your perspective, you examine those problems and you ask, is this who I am, or is this just something I have? And then when you acknowledge your power of choice, you get to decide what you do with it. They're clean, don't worry. You know, growing up as a person with a disability, I didn't really have diabetes. So people who've had diabetes their whole life, it might be a little bit different, but the universal concept we all understand as humans is struggle. We all go through struggles. I can tell you this right now. You have the same exact story as me. You went through some crap, you got over some crap, and there's some more crap coming. It's just what it is. For me, growing up with a disability, I felt broken. I was made fun of. I was bullied to the point of I didn't want to be here anymore. And I was never that jock or that guy with muscle. So I always felt like that quiet kid in the corner, just trying to hide, just trying to blend in. I never told my parents I was being bullied or made fun of because I was embarrassed for them and I felt sad for them. I felt bad for them because it was like, man, I don't want to be the kid that disappoints their parents. I'm sorry, I'm disabled. But there was one specific day where I just couldn't take it. I remember going to a new school, and this girl named Crystal, she was the prettiest girl in school. Prettiest girl in school. I'm talking about the prettiest girl in school. To be fair, there was only 3 girls in that class, but I finally worked up the courage to ask this girl out. I walked up to her in front of the entire room. My friends started laughing. I look back, I'm like, guys, stop, you're going to mess this up. I turn back around and she has her hand over a stapler making fun of me, calling me claw boy. And everyone laughed at me. And I was humiliated. And I tried to pretend like it didn't bother me, but it did. And up until that point, I never said anything to my parents, but I'll never forget that day, because when I went home, I ripped the door open and I took my backpack off. I flung it across the floor. I ran to the bathroom. Tears were just like streaming down my face. I was so upset. And I just looked at myself in the mirror and I'm like, you are a monster. My mom asked me, how was your day? What's going on? And I always lied to her, but this day I just couldn't take it. I'm like, Mom, why did you do this to me? Why did you make me like this? You're a nurse, Mom. Why would you do this to your own kid? Why would you even have me? Why did you do this to me, Mom? Why didn't you fix this? Why do you help everyone else around you, but not your own son? And she said something no parent should ever have to say to their kid. She broke down and she cried and she could barely utter the words, I'm sorry. That was one of those moments where I knew something had to change, and I couldn't change my disability. I couldn't change anything else. We can't change our diabetes, but I could change my attitude about the situation. Zig Ziglar once said, your attitude determines your altitude, meaning your attitude determines how far you can go. And for me, I set a glass ceiling on myself because of my disability, but not because of my disability, because of how I reacted to my disability, because of my attitude towards my disability, because I told myself a circumstance I never asked for, a circumstance that we've never asked for, is going to limit our potential to live a great life. It's going to limit our potential to help other people, to get happiness, to feel fulfilled. And in seeing my mom's pain, I decided that I don't want to do that. I want to start making changes to live a better life. Now, I still hid my hand for 17 years after that. I started trying to help other people, but I was still hiding. I was still hurting, but I wanted to do something with my life, but I started to fall to depression and all these things. I was that non-jock kid in high school. I played drums. I duct taped a drumstick and then I put it through a finger hole of a glove and I played for 4 years and I danced and I was president of the chess club in middle school. Like I did all that weird stuff. And I know it looks like I have muscles and tattoos and all that and little swoopy hair, but I was never the cool kid until I decided to make being yourself cool. And that took me a long time. In high school, I didn't try out for football. I was trying out for band. And specifically, one guy made fun of me for having a bird chest, as he called it. That same guy a few years ago messaged me to help write him a workout program. Once your attitude changes, whether it's about diabetes, the way you manage your sugars, or just your life in general, we can't control having diabetes, but what we can control is what we do about it. Those minute by minute decisions for our minute by minute condition determine our ability to succeed. And I don't mean success in the terms of wealth or money. I mean succeed in, do you feel accomplished? Do you feel valued? Do you feel fulfilled? Are you obtaining quality of life? Or is that attitude you currently have about something you really can't control getting affecting you? Easier said than done. Absolutely, 100% easier said than done. But I'll challenge you to start saying better done than said, because everything is easier said than done. Absolutely everything. But also everything is better done than said. You have to do it anyways. And in doing that, you become a better person. You become a happier person. You become a more fulfilled person. We can't control the hardship that happens to us in life, but we have a responsibility. And I don't mean just a responsibility. I mean a responsibility. We have the ability to respond to anything that happens to us in life. And for me, for so long, I feel like I didn't have that ability to respond. And it's because I chose not to. I chose to be broken. I chose to accept the label that society attempted to put on me, that I was less than because of something I couldn't control. Diabetes is not your fault. Diabetes is not my fault. There is no fault for diabetes, but there is a responsibility, and it is on us to make the most of our lives and make the most of the lives of those around us in our community and out of our community, whether it's awareness, excitement, fun, living life to the most, the ups and downs of life. That's all part of life. But who you are is not dictated by what your sugar is. Who you are is who you are. I'm not patient 47. I'm Chris. I'm not the disabled diabetic guy. I'm Chris. And I also happen to have a disability, and different is awesome. That attitude changed everything for me. But perspective is huge too. So you have to have a different perspective in life. And for me, I decided that I didn't want to have the perspective of a broken, diseased kid. I was diagnosed with diabetes at 19 years old, and it doesn't run in my family. To be honest, no one runs in my family either, but it doesn't run in my family. So it came out of nowhere. Both my parents were nurses, and they couldn't believe that a kid that he's not overweight, but he's not like fit. How could you have diabetes? So many stigmas that were happening in this diagnosis. And I was actually misdiagnosed type 2. And then eventually we found out it was type 1. In that hospital, I remember the decision that was going on in my head. I was like, you have two decisions. You could give in. You're disabled. Now you're diabetic. There's no life for you. Or you could start asking questions. Is there more to life than being disabled? Is there more to life than being diabetic? Is there more to life than these circumstances that have presented themselves? And I started to ask better questions. Which decision, which idea, which action, which behavior is going to lead me to a life that I'm proud of looking back? You'd be surprised what that does for you when you start asking yourself, which decision will make me proud when I look back? How much better your choices will get, whether it's checking your sugar, whether it's eating the better foods for yourself, whether it's working with your diabetes management team to improve your quality of life, not just your A1C or time in range. Which decision will make you most proud looking back? I started to adopt this perspective of maybe I'm not broken. Maybe I'm different, and maybe different is awesome. Maybe this wimpy kid can find a way to work out. You know, as a person with a disability, I always felt like this one-handed guy living in a two-handed world with a broken pancreas. And I started going to the gym, and I was like, wow, these machines are not for me. But maybe I can find a different way. Maybe I can adapt, just like we have to do with our sugars, whether it's a high intensity, low intensity exercise, hot, cold. We know everything affects our blood sugars. For me, being that wimpy kid in the gym, I just started asking those questions, and I started finding machines. It's like, I can't do this, but maybe I can do just one side. Maybe I can just like balance it and push. Maybe I can grab like a hook or something and start pulling. And I found a way to lift 135 pounds, a deadlift from the ground. And I was bent and doing all this. And I was like, oh, that was kind of cool, but there's no way I can get better. There's no way I can go heavier. That was too much. That limiting belief started to kick back in. And how many times do we have that limiting belief when we have a bad blood sugar or a bad day that we're like, oh, this sucks. This is how life's going to end. This is terrible. We start telling ourselves this inner narrative. We get that perspective of self-sabotage. And if it's not perfect, it's terrible. But perfectionism is self-sabotage. And I sabotaged myself for a long time until I started asking better questions. So I said, okay, maybe this way, this bent way, crooked with my arm, which is shorter, lifting weights, might be impossible to progress. But is there another way? Maybe there is. So I found a way to build an exercise hook that went around the remainder of my limb. And I hooked it onto a bar and I lifted. I was like, oh, it works. So I went from 135 pounds to 225 pounds. I'm like, this is awesome. This is great. And I started progressing and I started training and I started wanting to become a powerlifter. But that perspective changed from being that broken kid, being that disabled diabetic guy, to being Chris, to being unlimited in the potential, unlimited in my ability to try. I'm not going to say you can be whatever you want, because I promise you, you're probably not going to be an astronaut tomorrow unless you train for it. You can be whatever you work towards. Eventually, indefinitely, it's going to happen in some way, shape, or form. You will find a way, as long as you're consistent, as long as you put in the work, and as long as you don't give in to the self-sabotaging perspective that I had for so long. So many of us let these bad sugars, bad moments, bad days become bad weeks and bad months and bad lives. And those are all the narratives, the perspectives that we tell ourselves. And I just decided to give myself a different perspective. I had this perspective of, man, life sucks. And then I started to question it. And I said, maybe life doesn't suck. Maybe life just is life, and it's what we make it. After being diagnosed with diabetes, I took it as a mission to start helping other people. So I started working out. I started helping other people work out. I ended up working with hundreds of people with diabetes, helping them lose thousands of pounds, get in better shape. Because what I realized was, it's not about looking good, which is cool sometimes. It's about feeling good. It's about feeling confident, because it doesn't matter what you weigh on a scale or how many abs you have if you're not happy. Not everyone needs abs to be happy, but everyone needs to be happy to be happy. Everyone needs to have confidence or fulfillment in life, or feeling fulfilled in what they're doing, and not feel like they're being bogged down by this minute by minute condition none of us asked for, but we all have the responsibility to take care of. And as you listen to this, or as you listen to any of this event, I hope that you take away, it's not only beneficial for you to better your life, better your diabetes management, better yourself, but do that in hoping that you better the people around you, the people who are growing up and looking at you as role models, the people who look at you as peers and they're struggling, maybe harder than you are right now. What I realized is, in helping other people, I was helping myself. I became a better patient. I became a better leader. I became a better person. And I was driven to show the world, to show other people, but most importantly, show myself that regardless of a disability or diabetes, I can do something. I started building muscle. I started doing this, and then I did my first powerlifting competition. I went from 225 to 315 to 405 to 495. I ended up pulling 500 pounds at my first powerlifting competition, and I won. But I didn't stop. I did 4 other powerlifting competitions from there, and I won every single one. So much so that I ended up getting invited to the Arnold, which is the largest sports festival in the world. 20,000 people watched me attempt to break a world record. It's probably the coolest moment in my life, setting up with 640 pounds on the bar, deadlifting in front of thousands and thousands of people and breaking a world record. And it all came down to a perspective. I remember the moment where I decided to be more than what's happened to me. And I feel like everyone watching this has faced or will face that moment. So I encourage you, I highly encourage you to start building a better attitude towards your life, not be happy with what's happened to us. I'm not happy because of diabetes, but I am happy because of my choices around diabetes. I'm happy because I'm an individual that can build a life regardless of what happens, because internal happiness, internal validation, internal feeling of success comes from me, and no one can take that from me. Diabetes is not who you are, it's what you have. It's kind of like a bad roommate that you signed a lease with for life, who's going to steal your pizza all the time. Diabetes is just something you have to live with, not for. Same thing with disability. I stopped living for my disability 3 years ago. I took off the glove that I was hiding my hand. I had the perspective of, if I decide to do this, maybe life will be better. And that's where power of choice comes in. We all have the power to choose what we do. And if you make a choice towards a better life, you're moving in the right direction. And if you make a choice towards a worse life, you're moving in the wrong direction. And if you don't make a choice at all, that's still a choice. You can't ignore diabetes away. You can't. And we all know that. You can't ignore hardship. If you ignore what's going on in your life, you're ignoring the person you could become. You're ignoring your potential. You're ignoring your fulfillment. You're ignoring your quality of life. It took a lot for me to stop ignoring that. And I finally took that glove off. I took a video of me taking the glove off after 17 years of hiding. I took that glove off, posted the video on YouTube, and I woke up to 7 million views, a post in the Washington Post, getting a call from The Rock, doing a TV show, Titan Games, ended up going to Uganda and Africa, speaking to kids with type 1 diabetes, coming back to billboards all over with my face on it with The Rock, a guy I used to play action figures with, working with companies like Nike and Tommy Hilfiger, doing adaptive clothing for people with disabilities. Ended up writing a book and it has my face on it. Ended up being in one of the most popular magazines in the world, People Magazine. All of those accolades are really nice, but what really changed when I stopped hiding, when I started accepting who I was is not the circumstances that have happened to me. Who I am is not my diabetes. Who I am is not my disability. When I unapologetically became myself and accepted myself for who I am and not what I have or don't have, life changed. People started to see the real me. I was at a diabetes event, a diabetes camp speaking, and there was about 2,000 diabetics there, huge event. And I was there to speak. People saw me speak, and I still had my glove on at the time. And I was walking down this long, long hallway, and there was a 7-year-old girl who had like fallen in love with me in this event. She was attached at my hip. She wouldn't leave me alone. I loved her. She was so cute. And we're walking down this long hallway, still hiding my hand, had the glove on. No one asked me about it because I had that fake sense of confidence. And she grabbed my left hand. She grabbed my residual limb that I was hiding with the glove. And I freaked out. I was like, in my head, I'm like about to lose it. And she's just swinging my arm. And she looks at me. I'm getting chills as I'm about to say this. She looks at me and she said, "It's okay. You don't have to hide around me." 2,000 people saw me speak that day. But that little girl was the only person who actually saw me. I didn't even see me. She saw me for who I could be. She chose to take me out of my comfort zone in the nicest way possible. She chose to show me what life could be, who I could be, who I am behind all those masks, or for me, a glove. She chose to show me that diabetes, disability, hardship, struggle, all of those things don't define a person. To her, I was just Chris. To me, I was broken, still at that time. So when I decided to take that glove off, when I decided to take diabetes and make it into a thing, when I decided to turn my health issues into wealth issues, and I don't mean that by money, I mean that by putting myself out there and taking care of myself and my condition and my mental health so that I could be a leader for everyone else, so that I could create leaders amongst our community, my life changed. And it's not about money. It's not about being on billboards or being on TV shows or having a book. It's not about that. It's about feeling like you're worth it. You remember me talking about doing that deadlift in front of 20,000 plus people. I had 640 pounds on the bar. And I remember looking around at these thousands of people. I'm the only disabled diabetic person there. The amount of doubt, and people were like, "Yeah, come on. Okay, sure." I grabbed the bar and I started shaking violently as I was pulling. I'm just shaking, shaking, shaking. And people just put it down, put it down. And I refused. And I remember standing up. The crowd was going wild. I remember standing up at that bar, 640 pounds, broke a world record, the strongest type 1 diabetic disabled athlete. I stood up at that 640 pounds and the entire arena went silent. Everything went black. And the only thing I could think of was my mom hugging me, crying, saying, "I'm sorry." And I'll never forget what I said to her. I said, "It's okay, Mom. I'll figure something out." And I figured it out, guys. It was never my disability. It was never my diabetes. It's never the struggle we face. It's the perspective we have. It's that attitude that we have around our life, regardless of what happens to us. It's that perspective that we choose to take. It's a choice because we have the power to choose what we do with something. We have the power to choose who we become. Being one of the strongest type 1 diabetic disabled powerlifters in the world, working with these brands, having a book, doing all these things, I would have never imagined that 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I was still hiding my hand. 5 years ago, I was still broken. Nothing changed about my disability. The only thing changed was my ability to see myself for my worth and my value and who I could become based on the things I choose to do right now. That's managing my condition, managing my life, and managing myself and my own expectations for what life could be. I am disabled, but I am not abled. I'm not weak or broken or useless or helpless or less than. I'm strong. At least I pretend to be on Instagram. I am greater than my limitations. I am is the second greatest phrase you could ever use. And the first is the word or words that you choose to follow. I went from a wimpy kid to a kind of strong guy. Diabetes never stopped me. It slowed me at times, but it never stopped me. If anything, diabetes was the catalyst to meet all of you, whether it's virtually, socially, or in real life. Without diabetes, I wouldn't be here. Take your attitude, take your perspective, take your power of choice, and create the life that you know you deserve. It's up to you. Thank you guys so much.